So I'll kick us off and introduce myself. My name is Jennifer Piercy, and I am an alumnus of NC State University with degrees in chemical engineering and pulp and paper technology back before all of you students were born. But for the parents that are on with their students, I have high school senior and a college junior, so I know what this is like. I am the Director of Student Recruiting for NC State's Paper Science and Engineering program, and also the Executive Director of our advisory board, which is essentially an alumni, corporate, and industry board. So we're going to talk a little bit tonight about paper science and engineering, which I know some of you come from an area where there is paper industry present and some of you don't. And some of you saw that little tagline that said engineering scholarships, and either you thought you wanted to hear about this or your parents said it's time for you to hear about it. But our program is ranked #1 in North America. And contrary to popular belief, a lot of people think about the paper industry and they start thinking bad things. So we'll talk to you guys about how we are different than what you think and what you know, how we're good for you, good for the US, good for the environment, and good for the future. So first, since this session is comprised mostly of high school freshmen, sophomores, and juniors, we'll talk a little bit about what engineering is, because likely you're thinking engineering because you like math and science, you're good at math and science. So engineering is taking the education and the skills of science and math to design and build structures, machines, devices, systems, materials, or processes. So it's taking the scientific facts that we know and coming up with the technology to apply it. Now, I used to give the chickenpox example when I do this live, right? But a COVID vaccine could be a very good example. But for the students that are on the call, you can use the raise hand feature if you have ever had the chickenpox. So if you're in high school or college and ever had the chickenpox, you can use that little raise hand. And it's probably not many of you. Now, if there are parents on the call, you can do the raise hand if you've had the chicken pox, which most of us have. So what was the difference? What happened between us and our children? So you put it in the chat if you know what it was. And I kind of already gave it away, right? So it was a vaccine. So a scientist, what I call an IST, a biologist, a chemist, a biochemist, somebody in a lab found out that this particular makeup would essentially eliminate us from getting chickenpox. If we stop there, though, we have a problem. So it's the engineers that figure out how to make that on a large scale, how to manufacture, how to distribute, how to store it? Does it need to be stored cold? How do we dispense it? What is the method of delivery from the discovery to the application and the end use? So we need both types of scientists. We need engineers. And so when most people think about engineering, they think about kind of the broad branches of engineering, like mechanical, chemical, electrical, materials, civil, things like that. But we are most closely related to chemical engineering. So I always like to stop here and give an overview of what chemical engineering is. So that's someone who uses the scientific principles of chemical reactions, fluid flow, heat transfer, mass and momentum transfer, thermodynamics, to design systems that move, transform, and react matter, or transfer energy. So if you think about, everyone knows that paper comes from trees, you have a very rigid, very large raw material that comes into a manufacturing facility, and it is treated such that we end up with a very flexible, thin, and strong sheet of paper. So that's movement and transformation and reaction of matter. And there's a whole lot of energy going into that as well, but that's for another time. And if you look a little more closely about chemical engineering, you'll find that there are subspecialties of chemical engineering that were usually born as a part of importance to a region. So for example, in the Gulf Coast of the US, chemical engineering, you can find petrochemical engineering programs at places like LSU to support the petrochemical industry. And for us here in the Southeast US, that's pulp and paper. And that's where paper science and engineering at NC State comes into play. Now, as you guys start looking at universities and searching for colleges, you will hear lots of different terminology thrown around, and it does tend to get confusing. But at NC State, we are made up of different colleges, and there are degree programs offered inside of each. For our program, we're co-administered by 2 colleges, and I personally think that is the best thing ever. And here's why. If you are from North Carolina, you know that NC State is known for mainly 2 things, engineering and then agriculture and life sciences. Sure, we have a lot of other magnificent programs, but we are an engineering school. Our College of Engineering has about 10,000 students. We have 18 different bachelor's degrees. We have our own Centennial campus. And by the way, our chemical engineering program is ranked 20th in the world. So our College of Engineering is large, it's prestigious, it has a lot of power that comes with it. Our College of Natural Resources is 4th in the nation for places to study natural resources, but much smaller by comparison. So about 1,500 students. We award about $600,000 in scholarships annually. We have study abroad programs, and 100% of our students must complete a work experience by graduation. By contrast, that's not a requirement for the College of Engineering, but we take that on ourselves. We say we're going to grab that from the College of Natural Resources. And we are the #1 ranked paper science program in North America and 7th in the world. So the way I view this is our students can partake in everything that is offered to them by the College of Engineering and the College of Natural Resources. So we have some students on tonight that are College of Natural Resources ambassadors. We have some students in our program that are College of Engineering ambassadors. So it's enjoying the benefits of both colleges. And the College of Natural Resources is known for its community and family feel. So you have a large university where you can take advantage of all kinds of different activities, extracurricular, fun, social, a large, powerful College of Engineering. But the College of Natural Resources and our program provide that family and support and development that the students will appreciate later and the parents are looking for now. So probably you're thinking, well, why paper? That kind of seems a little bit different, and I'm trying to figure out why this is so important. So each one of us on this call uses almost 600 pounds of paper a year. And it keeps us civilized if you think about it like that, the different ways that we use paper. It also contributes $250 billion to the US economy, is a major employer in many states. So the shout out to all the folks that are joining us from the Yulee, Fernandina Beach area, because you guys have 2 mammoth companies in that area, Westrock and Rayonier Advanced Materials. And the US is the #4 paper producer in the world. And we make products that help people be comfortable, prosperous, and educated. And it's more than just the paper that you write on, because that's what all of y'all initially thought, I know. So paper makes us civilized, and we think about the C's. So comfort and cleanliness. Never as a society have we thought more about toilet paper than in a pandemic, right? Convenience. I love the picture here of the paper bag, because you don't ever see a paper bag floating in the trees as waste as you drive along the highway. It's recyclable. Communication. So yes, communication grades are declining somewhat, but there's paper in your LCD TV screens and in that cell phone that's either in your pocket or sitting right next to you. And also commerce. Think about, we need a very lightweight but strong boxes to ship all our goods to us and to package everything for us. Even if they're bought in the store, they got shipped to the store. And so a quick historical lesson, because most people say, oh, I've never heard of this, it must be new. So we are a more than 65-year-old program that's graduated about 35 students annually. I mentioned earlier, my degree is pulp and paper technology. Well, in 2004, we did everything that was required of us to receive our ABET accreditation, which allowed us to change our name to Paper Science and Engineering. And we do have about a 40-person industrial advisory board that helps us support, guide, and direct our faculty, our staff, our curriculum, and help develop our students. So now I'm going to talk to you about some things that we think are important that you should look out for in your college experience. We certainly know that everyone is probably going to have lots of choices, but these are some things to think about as hopefully you guys go around visiting colleges this fall, and we hope that's in person. So we are a very small program with individual attention. So again, 30 to 40 students graduating a year, but about 200 students in our program, and the faculty and staff know them all. So that leads to a high degree of faculty to student interactions. We pay lots of attention to our students. We have lots of professional development, and our students on the call tonight will tell you a little bit about that. But I think this year, as of right now, about 65% of our current freshman group have secured a work experience this summer or this fall, and that's a paid work experience. So we have phenomenal industry support. And so this is one of the things we do to show that. We do a freshman retreat, maybe the second weekend that our students are on campus. We go and see a modern manufacturing facility. We do some professional development, interviewing skills, talk a little bit about the industry, but we also have fun. We go out and do some team building, a ropes course, and just help our freshman group start to form those friendships. Another reason that this is often cited from our alumni as one of the two best things about our program is our hands-on learning. They will tell you that our curriculum made them a better engineer or a better thinker. We have about 51,000 square feet of classroom, lab, and pilot plant space. So almost everything you would see in a modern manufacturing facility, we have in a small scale so that our students can actually take what they learn and the theories and principles they learn in the classroom and go apply them in the laboratory. So we have, this is a 12-inch wide, 60-foot long baby paper machine making red paper here. So we have everything from bringing a log in to making that final sheet of paper and everything in between. Also, we are the only program in the country to offer a double major with chemical engineering. So about 65% of our students will graduate with 2 degrees, and it only takes 1 extra semester. This is a great program, and oftentimes students and parents will ask, well, what's the difference at graduation? A paper science degree or a paper chemical dual degree? So right now, our average number of job offers is about 2 to 4 per student. Doesn't matter if it's single or dual. Our average starting salary is the same for single or dual. The difference is the dual degree students might pursue a wider variety of those first jobs. So the diversity of the first job is the only difference that we currently see. Another reason that we think is so important, and I feel like this is very important no matter what you study or where you go to college, but having that practical work experience in a summer internship or a co-op. Now, in the engineering disciplines, it's very common for work experiences to be paid. In other disciplines, maybe not so much, but that, that doesn't really matter. You need to have some work experience or some spend-a-days with professionals. So ours are paid. It doesn't matter if it's an internship or a co-op. We have our own in-house career services for our department. Our students come to our building and they interview. Our average student will graduate with about a year of experience, and it's paid $18 to $28 an hour. So we make this very easy for our students, and it's because of the high demand of our graduates and how I mentioned earlier that even our freshmen have secured some experiences. And our full-time placement rate is 90 to 100%. It has been that way for about 65 years. And I mentioned earlier that the average graduate has about 2 to 4 job offers to choose from. So some types of jobs that our graduates go into. So if you look maybe at a 5-year trend, about 70% of our graduates are going to work in the paper or allied industry. 20% will go to work in what we call engineering other. So that could be petrochemical or pharmaceutical or something that's engineering but not paper. And then 10% maybe to graduate school or something different. So of the 70% that go to work in the paper industry, 2/3 of them are going to start in manufacturing. And generally what I tell students, my kind of 3rd grade answer for an engineer is an engineer makes your product, which could be toilet paper, writing paper, the specialty cellulose that goes in your ice cream. So yes, you eat cellulose. It could be your product. Your product could also be an automobile, a jumbo jet, or the process to make those cheaper, faster, better, stronger, or safer, either for the consumer who's buying or using it, the company, or the environment. So that's what we're trying to do. How can we make goods that we use every day or the process that manufactures them cheaper, faster, better, stronger, safer for the people, the company, or the environment? So process and project engineering, chemical and equipment sales, consulting, even research and development. So of the, let's say, 1/3 that don't go into manufacturing, they will take some of those jobs where they will do technical consultation and sales. So maybe they're helping bring chemicals, new chemicals, different chemicals into paper facilities, or working with byproducts and what do we use those for, and sales, water treatment, all kinds of things that maybe isn't directly related, working for the company that manufactures the paper, but is working for a company that helps support the manufacturer. And so companies that hire our students, so you'll see on the right-hand side, I straight away put Westrock and Rayonier Advanced Materials for our folks in the Florida area, but also International Paper, Domtar Papers, companies that maybe you've heard of. If you start looking on the bottom of boxes, you might see PCA or Pratt Industries or Westrock, but also some places you probably have never heard of, like Research Triangle Institute, or you didn't think about the Patent Office, or the CIA, or ExxonMobil, which is petrochemical, or Nestle Purina. So a lot of different opportunities for our graduates. And I did touch on this earlier, and I will just say a high starting salary is a great thing to have, but the most important thing is that you find your fit and your passion, because there's nothing worse than doing something that you don't enjoy for the rest of your life just because you did it for the money. But we are one of the highest starting salaries graduating from NC State University. And then special opportunities. So, you know, college is about your academic learning, but it's also about your personal and professional development. So we offer international opportunities, undergraduate research, which some of our students will talk about that. And then travel. It was supposed to be a year. We took a group of juniors and seniors to an international destination, but every 2 years, we will take a group of students to experience the paper industry and how the US can compete and how this particular country is different than us. And the reason I mention that is our industry believes it is so important for our students to be global thinkers that they will subsidize the cost of this trip by 2/3. So our students are only paying 1/3 of the cost of the trip. And we do fun things too. So we do technical, educational learning things, and we also learn about the culture. And then additionally, probably one of the things that caught your eye about this particular Zoom call is we do have a large scholarship endowment. So our program has one of the largest endowments per capita at NC State. And it has been that way for quite some time. So when our industry was really growing in the Southeast, and the reason that our industry is very prevalent in this area is because our raw material is here. So southern pine tree makes a great, long, strong fiber for use in paper products. They said, you know, we really need to choose a world-class university that is going to help train our students in not the generic broad theories and principles of chemical engineering, but also the very specific type of processes we have in our paper industry. So that's when they established our program back in the 50s. And they said, here's what we commit to you. We will give you money to attract high achieving students. Because let me tell you, I've been doing this for 9 years. I generally meet 300 plus students every year, and only once have I had a student run up to me at an event, you know, practically bowl me over and say, Mrs. Piercy, I'm so excited you're here. I've always wanted to be a paper science engineer, right? So that doesn't happen that much. So our industry knew that, and they said, we'll work to give you guys scholarship money. We'll work to donate equipment, provide summer jobs, and hire them at graduation. So that's why our industry and corporate connection is very important. So we have scholarships that range from $2,500 a year to $5,000 a year or more. We do have a Paper Super Scholars program, which is for our out-of-state students, where we provide increased awards to help offset the cost of studying out of state. And then we also have some special awards as students progress through our program. So we have bioresources undergraduate fellowships for research. We have need-based scholarships. We have merit-based scholarships. And our capstone award is a $10,000 Phillips Family Leadership Initiative for students who also want to pursue a business minor. And then we have lots of external scholarships through our Technical Association of the Pulp and Paper Industries. So I'll make sure our students also touch on the scholarships because we have a Phillips and we have some TAPI award winners on with us tonight as well. And so you might be thinking, okay, so all that sounds great, but you know, I'm a high school junior. It's going to be 6-7 years before I graduate from college. You know, what's the future? So I was on a call earlier today with admitted students, and they said, what is the most exciting thing about your program? And this is what I spoke about, is that our industry is the leader in making products from totally renewable, totally sustainable raw material. So I know you guys get a heavy feeling if you ever drive by something where there's been a clear cut of trees. That is typically not the paper industry's doing. If it is a managed forest, and forests have to be cared for, including prescribed burns. And when the trees are mature, you cut them down and use them like you would an agricultural crop like corn or wheat or any type of food that we would eat. Our challenge is it just takes 20 years, not just one harvest cycle, to grow trees. but they're totally recyclable and they come from the air, right? The tree and the process of photosynthesis is miraculous. So our department that our program is a part of is called the Department of Forest Biomaterials. And what is super exciting is how can we take biomass, so anything that's grown, and turn it into pharmaceuticals, chemical structures, plastics, fuel, energy, and the list goes on and on and on, right? Instead of using petrochemical-based plastics, what can we substitute biomass for? Because again, it's renewable, sustainable, recyclable, compostable, all those great things for the environment that our petrochemical-based materials are not. And so a couple of things I wanted to mention before I turn it over to students. And please don't worry about trying to copy down these very large links. I'll ask Larden to put the link again in the chat. If you guys let us know you're here, tomorrow I will send an email. But this Environmental Career Connections, as well as our virtual summer camp, is on one of our landing pages that I can send to you. And Environmental Career Connections is going to be in a that's next week. So you can sign up. It's for free. There's something Thursday evening, a fun student-led game night Friday evening, and then Saturday midday is a chance to learn more about research, student activities, and careers in the kind of environmental realm. And this year, Paper Science and Engineering is hosting 2 week-long virtual summer camps where you will have some short lectures via Zoom, but shipped a supply kit and some really cool hands-on activities to do. And so this really is the only link that you need to know, of course, after you sign in on the I'm Here form, but go.ncsu.edu and then /PSE for Paper Science Engineering events. So that will list our environmental career connections. So take a screenshot of this slide really quickly. Our summer camp, any upcoming events that we have. It's got my contact information. Our YouTube channel has a ton of different videos to expose you more to our program and our industry, a lot of things like that. And then before I turn it over to the students, one of the most important things that I have to tell you all is if you are a current high school junior, you want to apply to NC State by our early action deadline, which is November 1st. It is not binding, so it doesn't mean that if you're accepted, you have to come to NC State, but that is your best chance at securing scholarships, is being admitted by the early action deadline. So I cannot stress that enough. I really cannot. And of course, when you let us know you're here, we'll send you the follow-up information. And if you'd like to continue to be on NC State's emailing list, you can do that to receive more information about what the university is doing. Now we're kind of doubling up on this event. We've got some folks who express an interest from all over the world, I think, in engineering on this call. And also we did a targeted outreach again to our friends in Northeast Florida. And the reason we did that is normally this time of year, I'm down there at Rayonier Advanced Materials in Fernandina Beach, Florida, giving this presentation in person. But of course, we can't do that this year. So it's great to be able to bring that to you all virtually. And so that is all that I have for my presentation. So I am going to stop sharing. And then what I'm going to do is turn it over to our students. And because I see Larden first, she gets to go, and then you can call on one of your other 3 colleagues to go. So the students are going to share a little bit about their experiences and how they came to be here. Then we'll open it up for question and answer. So thanks, Larden.
Well, hi everyone. I just want to say thank you to everyone for coming. We're so glad to have you here. But my name is Lardon Garland. I use she, her pronouns. I'm from Zebulon, North Carolina, and I'm a third year student pursuing dual degrees in paper science engineering and chemical engineering. A little bit about my work experience. I've had, a variety of positions in like all different industries. So within the paper industry, I worked for Sunoco. I did a summer internship with them in Hartsville, South Carolina. Here at NC State, I was a summer start mentor for new student programs. I've also worked for University Housing as a mentor for the Eco Village. And then currently I'm working for the department's research journal and the Department of Forest Biomaterials. So a lot of different work experience there. As far as my extracurricular activities, my first couple years, I lived on campus and I was in WISE, which is Women in Science Engineering. So another living and learning village focus on specifically women in STEM. I was also in the Engaging Leaders program. So that's a first year program within the College of Natural Resources. And it's designed to help you develop your leadership skills while also doing a service project to give back to the community. So I really enjoyed that. And I was also an ambassador for the College of Natural Resources. So a lot of experiences there. Some of my other clubs I'm in the National Society of Black Engineers and the Society of Women Engineers. So I know I mentioned a lot of different things, and feel free to ask me questions about any of those experiences, later when we have that time. So I guess next thing would be like why I chose paper science engineering. And for me, I chose it because of like the financial and career support that they gave, throughout. So before I was even, as I was an admitted student, I had already received a scholarship offer. I'm still not even sure if I want to come to NC State, and the paper science program is like, hey, here's this scholarship. So that, obviously that's very attractive. But then once I got here, I saw that like, that support, continues throughout, it's not just, here's a scholarship, now you're on your own, there's career development, within house, mock interviews and even like the freshman retreat. And then the abundance of, co-ops and internships, like Ms. Piercy had mentioned, earlier, as my first year, 2/3 of us had already had, either an internship or a co-op. So like getting that industry experience early on, that was definitely helpful and like really attractive. And then also with having our in-house career specialist, we have very high job placement at a really high starting salary. So all of those things made me, was one of the many reasons that I chose to do paper science engineering. As far as NC State and like what made me want to come here, I think there's so many great things about the school, but I think one of the things that really stood out to me was the abundance of like resources that we have. And then within those resources, everyone within it is like an expert on it. So when I was, a senior in high school, I was visiting a lot of different schools, and I noticed that like these schools, they would have, this is our counselor, and she helps, with if you're looking for jobs, if you want to go to graduate school, if you want to do research, if like all these different things, it's like one person, doing a lot of different things, which is fine. But here at NC State, we have a dedicated office, with its own staff for each thing. So we have, the Office of Undergraduate Research, the fellowship office, different things like that. And like having, dedicated staff focused on everything I was interested in, all within walking distance, that was really attractive to me. So, that's just a little bit about, my story and why I chose paper science engineering specifically at NC State. But I guess I'll go ahead and pass it to Matthew, so he can go next.
Hi, everyone. My name is Matthew Klassa. I'm from right down the road from Raleigh. I live in Cary, North Carolina originally, so all my local to Raleigh people, I'm one of you. I'm a third-year student in the dual degree program with paper science and chemical engineering. And then I also don't know when to stop signing up for things. So I'm doing 2 minors as well in business administration and leadership studies, and then also the honors concentration within chemical engineering. At this point, I have about 9 months of work experience in the industry. So I worked a 7-month super co-op rotation with Domtar Paper in Plymouth, North Carolina. And then I also worked a summer internship this past summer with International Paper's Newport, Indiana mill. So definitely a very different experience, different area of the country, which was very exciting to me. And then this coming summer, I'll be working in the pharmaceutical industry with Merck making vaccines. So using more of the chemical engineering side of my degree. So really kind of showcasing that extra flexibility that you get with a dual degree. I've also done work experience on campus. So I did over a semester of undergraduate research. I was an undergraduate grader for a chemie course. And then currently I work as our department graduate recruitment intern. So I get to showcase the stories and diversity of our students, and then also work to recruit graduate students, which for me is really fulfilling because I really enjoy connecting people with opportunities to develop themselves and challenge themselves. So that's a little bit about me. Also, Mrs. Piercy mentioned the scholarship opportunities. So in addition to scholarships that I'm receiving through NC State, I've also received several scholarships through our technical association. So those opportunities are fantastic, really easy to apply for. So this past year, I applied for 5 scholarships and I ended up receiving 4 of them. So those are a significant help to me and my family because I'm the youngest of 3. So paying for college can sometimes be tricky. So those scholarships and those resources are definitely very helpful. Outside of academics, I love doing pretty much anything that gets me outside. So golf, hiking, camping. I'm actually 2 weeks away from running my 3rd marathon. So I really enjoy doing pretty much anything that gets me outside. In terms of why I chose paper science, when I was a senior in high school, I had never heard of paper science. I'm just going to be honest. And when I found out about it, I said, I never, ever want to do that. That sounds terrible. And then I got a scholarship for it and I went, well, crap, no, I need to actually figure out what this is all about. So I came for an admitted students day and just really fell in love with how we get to make an impact in the world around us and by making products that make people's lives better every day, but do it in a completely sustainable manner. And then also just this community within paper science here on campus is a very small family atmosphere. Several of my closest friends are people that I've met here at State in my freshman year courses in paper science. And just that support and that community aspect is not something that you get in any other program here on campus. And I'd also say I love NC State as a whole for kind of the same reason, because like Larden mentioned, you do get all those big resources of a big school. We are I think 36,000 person university. So we are a big school. We have all those resources of a big school, but also the university just feels small. And so just that, those connections with professors, those connections with your fellow students, I think is just something that's really fantastic. So you get a small campus feel while also having all the resources of a large university and all those opportunities that come with that. So that's a little bit about me and why I love NC State, and I'll pass it off to Tressa.
Hey everyone, I'm Tressa Glacken. I am a non-graduating 4th year and I'm from Fernandina Beach, Florida. So hello to all of my Fernandina people. I'm dual majoring in paper science engineering and chemical engineering with a minor in business administration. As for work experience, I've done 2 co-ops, one with Rainier Advanced Materials in Fernandina the fall of my sophomore year, and I just completed one with Westrock in Roanoke Rapids this past semester in fall. I will be returning there this coming summer. I've also done undergraduate research, which ended up extending into the following school year until we got switched to virtual. As for extracurriculars, I am a member of TAPI, the Technical Association of Pulp and Paper Industries, the student chapter here on campus. I'm also in AICHE, the American Institute of Chemical Engineers, and I'm a member of the All-Girl Club cheer team. And as for why I chose PSE, my mom actually attended this exact night that Jennifer hosted at Rainier and came home and said, Tressa, you have to sign up for this. And I said, whatever, who cares, who uses paper anymore? We're all going virtual. And then I still applied because scholarships. And I came up for the admitted students day and for the interview, and I just absolutely fell in love with the program. I am just so invested in paper now. My family makes fun of me all the time for how much I love paper. And it's definitely a family on 2 fronts, both the paper science family and just NC State as a whole. I'd say I probably, even with this year being virtual, I probably know almost all of the students in the program, at least being able to see them and say, hey, I know you, you're in paper science. And then also just NC State as a whole is another big family. I remember I went to visit a mill before I even came to NC State just to see kind of what paper was about. And I mentioned that I was thinking about going to NC State, and someone 2 halls down heard NC State and screamed, "Go Wolfpack," down the hall to me, which is just a great feeling because you experience that a lot. I can go ahead and pass that to Jalen.
Hello, everyone. My name is Jalen Page, and I'm a 4th-year senior studying obviously paper science and engineering with a single minor, with a single major, and I have 2 minors in business administration and industrial engineering. And I'm from the small town of Siler City, North Carolina. It's about an hour west of Raleigh. And I have some experiences in the paper industry. My very first one was with West Rock Company back in spring 2019. And I was at the West Point, Virginia location, located about 30 minutes from Williamsburg. And at that facility, they made liner board. So the board that was in the Amazon boxes or eBay boxes, and also the board that may be seen in like beer cans or for soda cans, their packs, that they made that type of paper. And then my second internship was with Clearwater Paper, and they were based out of Shelby, North Carolina, an hour west of Charlotte. And they made tissue paper, private label tissue products for brands like the private label Walmart brands, Food Lion, Kroger, Harris Teeter. And so that one was really exciting too, just because looking at the tissue industry is very different than looking at board. And also because since it was last summer, right in the heat of the COVID pandemic, and as you all probably know, how we could not keep stuff on the shelves fast enough for tissue or paper towels. And so it was really nice to be in that position to know that the work that I was doing was actually having a tangible impact in the world, like helping families out any way they could during the pandemic. And then for extracurricular activities, I've done quite a bit of stuff while being here on campus for the past 4 years. Currently, I'm a CNR ambassador for the College of Natural Resources. I'm also a recruitment intern, kind of what Matthew was doing too, similar, but I do with undergraduate students. And I do a lot of events like these. I'm talking to prospective students and then also calling them, answering any questions that they have about admissions or about paper science or any of our other degree programs at NC State. And then also I was a resident mentor for one of our Living Learning Villages, the Black Male Initiative Living Learning Village, and they have a goal of perpetuating a positive image of Black men in our society. And then I was also a peer mentor for TRIO, and that's an organization for first generation college students to help retain those students in those groups. And so we did a lot with career development, professional development, academics, and also just connecting with each other and just having fun and connecting them to any resources that they needed on campus too. And then for why I chose PSE, so when I came in undecided, and I knew I wanted to do engineering, but I wasn't sure which type. And so I narrowed it down between paper science, chemical, and also industrial engineering. So I ended up choosing paper science, one, because the scholarships, they were pretty great. And then also because it's a specialized version of chemical, I thought, you know, it's a perfect way to get into that. And then also when I learned that you could minor in industrial engineering, because like I was really interested in that field, because I was also interested in optimizing systems and making them more efficient, and not just like making a physical product like you do with paper or chemical. And so I ended up doing that. And I ended up loving it, and it's been amazing my experiences that I've had for work experiences and also for everyone I've been able to meet in the industry, other peers, and also many professionals too. And then I decided to take a leap of faith outside of the industry. This upcoming summer, starting on June 1st, I'll be interning with PepsiCo at their corporate headquarters in Dallas, Texas. And that will be in a different function. I'll be doing supply chain because I was interested in that field because it's really a mix between business and engineering. You get to see how your engineering decisions affect the business as a whole. And so I got interested in that whenever I was on my other internships, and I was always asking questions about the bigger picture, like how do we, I guess, choose our suppliers, or where do our products come from, or after they leave the paper machine, how do they get to the warehouse? Where do they go after that? How did they get to the final customer? And so that was something I was really interested in. And so I'll probably end up going into a career in supply chain, but whether that's in or outside the paper industry, we'll still have yet to see. And then probably what I love most about PSE, it's kind of like what other people said too, is our community. And because it is a smaller program, we really get a lot of focus on each individual students as compared to other larger engineering programs. So if I have any trouble in class, my peers or the faculty and professors, they're always there to help me out any way that I can. and then like Ms. Piercy, and then our director, Dr. Medbird. They're always there for us any way we can, and they have been incredible individuals for my journey. And then, yeah, that's it.
Awesome. Thank you, guys. Yeah, I think I can recall having Saturday conversations with almost all of you, the 4 of you, either text or in person on the phone, which is something that I love, because I will tell you that the majority of our faculty and staff are really invested in our students' development. And we are starting to see an uptick in our business minors, which we love, and the creativity of thinking, like Jalen pursuing the industrial engineering minor. So those are some wonderful things. Now I'll touch on a few questions that I got before I start throwing some to students. So someone asked if our scholarships were also available to international students. Absolutely. And the process at NC State is, once you're admitted, you then can apply for scholarships. Someone also asked about financial aid and if more of that was reserved for in-state or out-of-state students. So the other things I can encourage you to do is absolutely fill out that FAFSA, the free financial aid, and fill that out and have it in early. And it is done on a per family basis. So the aid is based on however the FAFSA calculates this. I'm not sure because I've done it twice. Your estimated family contribution. Now, clearly with an out-of-state student, your estimated family contribution does not go as far as it does with an in-state student. So our financial aid folks handle that, but it is on a per family basis, and it also can vary every year. So if you happen to be the last child coming into school, you might receive more aid those first few years. Than when your siblings graduate, then that burden is taken off. And we're always happy to recommend you to our financial aid folks. And someone asked about the acceptance rate. That one is a little bit hard to answer because it happens in 2 parts. So at NC State, you apply for engineering first year, and you can have any intent. Your intent could be civil, mechanical, electrical, paper chemical. And our admissions officers do a very holistic review, and then they will admit, I'm not sure of the exact acceptance rate that it was this year based on applicants, but I can follow up in an email with you guys to let you know what that is. And then you're in your exploratory engineering first year program. After that, your job your first year is to be a rock star academically, because then you will choose the program you want to matriculate into. And that acceptance is based on your GPA. So if you want to matriculate into paper science and engineering, you need to have a 3.0 total GPA and a 3.0 GPA of your 4 core math and science classes. So Calc 1 and 2, Chemistry 1, Physics 1. If you want to matriculate and pick up the chemical engineering degree, that's anywhere from a 3.2 to a 3.5. Mechanical, it's been as high as a 3.7. And those vary a little bit from year to year. So it's somewhat like a 2-part process. But our job is to make our first year students as successful as possible, because we know everyone's still exploring. And if one of these 4 students had come to me and said, I found my calling, it's in mechanical engineering, I would have been disappointed, of course, that we couldn't retain that student, but I would have been very excited that they found their calling. And at that point in time, I would have so wanted that student to have the GPA to be able to matriculate into mechanical. So I can follow up on the admit percentage, but it is based on the essays that you write. The rigor of course curriculum in high school is very important. This year, due to COVID, test scores were optional, which I would say the most important things are going to be your high school GPA and that rigor of curriculum. And you don't have to be involved in 8,000 different activities, but just be passionate about the things that you are involved in. And so the next question I will hand off, I'll start with Lardon and then see if Tressa has anything to add, but it was to elaborate a little bit more on the Women in Science and Engineering village and program.
Oh yeah, so Women in Science Engineering, it's a living and learning village. So basically what those are, it's like different communities, like in a specific residence hall, and like it'll focus on, you know, a specific topic. You know, there's ones for leadership, entrepreneurship, you know, environmentalism, and the Women in Science and Engineering one, that focuses on women in STEM. So with that, there's like different support through there. So we have tutoring through the village. We have different speakers come in. You know, we do community service together. We have, as a first year in the village, you have a second year student who's your mentor. And it's basically just a way, you know, I think it's pretty well known that women are really underrepresented in STEM, and through a lot of your courses, you might be the only one or one of a few. So it's basically just like, you know, there's going to be challenges with that, and you know, the village is there to offer you some support, as well as, you know, success strategies through other women that have already been through the program. But yeah, it's a really great program. I enjoyed living in it. I also had some leadership experience through being in it, because I was on the village's student council. So definitely, I think, a great resource for first year women that are looking to go into STEM majors.
And I wasn't actually in WISE. I lived in just the general engineering village my freshman year, but that still did help me interact with other women in STEM, mostly because they couldn't put us in a suite with men. But it was really helpful to have other engineers to be around. I ended up doing basically all of my work in my room with a group of about 10 people every single night. All of the RAs ended up calling my room the 12th floor lounge, because every time they walked in, there was just a massive group of people all doing work together or just hanging out. And it was really great. I met some of my best friends there. I'm actually still living with my freshman roommate from that village. So I do highly recommend going into villages if you're coming to state.
And that's an advantage of being in both colleges, is you could qualify for the engineering village or the eco village, you know, different things like that. Are out-of-state students considered out-of-state all 4 years or just the first year? So unless you actively pursue residency in the state of North Carolina, you will be out-of-state for all 4 years. And I know very few students who do that. You know, you have to change your permanent address, get a driver's license, you need to have a job. You're kind of in the process of proving that North Carolina is your residence full time. So we have had some students that have done that. So feel free to reach out to me, and they are happy to talk what the process was like for them. But I usually advise families and say it's not something that I would count on. And I think one of the most popular times for our students to go out on co-op is fall of their second year, which seems really early. So sometimes our students complete 1 year of school, and then from May to December will work. And that's an opportunity to earn a lot of money. I don't know if anybody has any comments about that. You know, our students will usually share kind of financially how that set them apart, because our goal is for them to graduate with very little debt. Anybody have any comments?
I can say I have done 2 co-ops, and both co-ops I've saved that money and then ended up either being able to pay for all or most of all of my tuition for the next semester using that.
So someone is asking about visiting. So you can visit anytime. It doesn't matter what grade you're in. If you are, and this was particularly a 10th grader, if you're a 10th grader, so if you're out of state and going to be in the area, we will help facilitate a visit. But if not, I might would wait until we are under some less restrictions about COVID. So right now we are still not doing any of the large campus tours or information sessions. And right now they're reserving our tours where there are students and faculty and staff along the way. They're self-guided tours, but you have the opportunity to interact. They're reserving those for admitted students. But so I would await just a little bit on that. And I think I've tried to answer some of the other ones in the chat. So, you know, how can a business minor help in the PSE career? A lot of our alumni do end up in the management. And you know, even if you don't, one of our, the main things our seniors focus on is the strategic business practices in the first semester and then their senior design. Because even in your very first job, you could be tasked with a very expensive equipment upgrade or changeover. And so you're going to have to know the business and the financials behind that and how to tell your boss, if we invest $1 million, here's the return on our investment. Here's how long that will take to pay out. So there are some business skills that are necessary that we teach, but it gives an added dimension to the engineering mindset. Other questions for the chat? Let me see, there's a couple down here. So how are problem-solving skills used in this career path? I'll pick on Matthew.
That is a great question. And that is one of my favorite aspects of working in this industry, or just, you know, in engineering in general. So to give a very real life scenario, I showed up for this past summer's internship in Newport, Indiana. Didn't know a single person there, was only going to be there for about 8 weeks because the internship was shortened due to COVID. And basically I showed up, went through my first training week, which is the general safety trainings, introducing the facility, all that. And then on my first day of actual work, I showed up and my boss's boss said, we have this waste management area of the mill that hasn't worked how like we want it to for the last 20 years. We don't have a single person at the mill that fully understands it. We don't know what's not working. We don't know where the problem is. We think it might be here, but we really have no clue. So go figure it out. And so I spent the next 2 or 3 weeks basically doing nothing but information gathering. So looking, you know, going out into the actual process, looking at the equipment itself, and making observations. And then going into the control room and talking to our hourly operators and saying, you know, like, these are the guys who work with it on a day-to-day basis. So asking them, how does this process work? What factors do you guys look at when you're running things? And then going and talking to management and saying, what are our priorities with this project? You know, what is our budget for this project? And then going back to the technical documents from when this equipment was first installed in the 1990s, back when everything was like completely on yellow, massive paper that crackles every time you move it. So basically my job was problem solving in the very literal sense of the word. And so over the course of information gathering and then testing the solutions that I identified, I was able to identify a roadmap of how we could save the mill about $500,000 per year, just in terms of making some equipment upgrades, making some process changes of, you know, normally that we would reroute this stream back in here, but if we reroute it this way, then we can improve our overall yield, working with our operators to develop our operator practices. So the problem solving skills really came out not just in the technical aspects and the chemistry aspects, but also in terms of working with people and working with the business side of things with the overall, how does this project fit into the overall business perspective of the mill? So really our job is problem solving. Every single day we solve problems to make the process safer, more efficient, more environmentally friendly. So if I were to describe engineering in one word, I would say it is problem solving, because that's what we do on a day-to-day basis. And so that was just one example of that.
And I would say, I think data shows that if you look at the #1 undergraduate degree of corporate CEOs, it is usually engineering. Now, they probably also have a finance degree or an MBA or something like that, but those problem-solving skills can be attributed to almost anything that you do every day. So I want to thank our 4 students. They are willing to stay on, but in the interest of everyone's time and being timely, what I have set up is 4 breakout rooms named for each one of the students. So there's a Larden, Jalen, Matthew, and Tressa breakout room. When I open those, you can choose to join whichever room you want. If you don't have the most updated version of Zoom, you can put in the chat which room you want to go to, and Miss Harrod and I will try to force you in there. And I'm also just going to stay in the main room to answer questions. This is totally optional. If you have other things to do, by all means, go on about your evening, but don't forget to sign in and let us know that you were here at go.ncsu.edu/I'm here. So I will open those up, and so my students go to your room, and then you can stay here. You can go to one room, you can go to 2 rooms, you can talk to all 4 of them, or you can go and have a good evening. But thank you so much for joining us. It was our pleasure to have you.